Hello, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this your SGF platform. It is a great honor to have you in our weekly class. Today we have a beautiful guest, professional guest, amazing guest from USA. She brings us a very interesting topic from my point of view, obviously, and it is time to leave this space in the hands of our prime mover, Coach Jagadish. Over to you, Coach.
Thank you so much. Greetings to everyone. As she rightly said, we have a person who was very special. As a mother of three and a caregiver to her paralyzed veteran brother, she's dedicated to reviving her community through the arts and awareness of self-care. She's the CEO of nonprofit House of Saleh. It's a performance art facility that serves, employs, and educates a range of marginalized communities ranging from disabled, indigenous, and ethnic minorities to those of lower socioeconomic status. Aside from working for 15 years as a talent agent and a coach, she's also recognized more on the home front as a fashion show producer of the 20-year annual production tour Strut Fashion Play. This is her creation in which she trains in fashion design, stage production, theater, acting, modeling, dance, and choreography. She also brings awareness to many of the social plights of the society via marketing, mentorship, and her huge show customized soundtrack. Please let's welcome our momopreneur named Tiara Crawford.
All right, how are you guys doing today? Super excited to be here. I'm so stoked about the topic today, chutes and ladders, the climb. And I'm just going to jump right on into it. So how many of you guys have ever heard of that game, Chutes and Ladders? All right. I know Miss Andrea has. In America, we have this game right here, Chutes and Ladders. And the object of this game is you climb up and you get to do really cool things on your way up. And if you make a mistake, you have to come all the way down the chute, which is now called a slide. And from there, if you make it all the way to the end of the game, I think the winning stage is maybe taking your animal to a pet show, something like that. So in America, this game just kind of touches on slight morale, but it's really just a really fun family game of making good choices and getting rewards. And so now I want to talk about the origin of this game, Snakes and Ladders. This one right here. Who all has ever heard of this game? All right. I've got some thumbs up. This is the original game of Chutes and Ladders. And how do we get from here to here? And I want to talk today about why this game is so important, why it should be in everyone's homes, and why this is a reflection of our path to ascension, from descension and back again. And I just want to talk a little bit more about what we can do together, like this group right here, like this foundation right here, coming together and working in unity to help each other on our climb. And so I'm going to go in today about that topic. So where did this game originate? Remember that the title is not Chutes and Ladders. It is actually Snakes and Ladders. And it originated in India sometime around 100 AD to 200 AD. And it was originally known as Gayan Shapura. And this is the game that I am also referring to. And this game traveled throughout the world, the region, and it's from Buddhist, Hindu, China, Muslims. They all have some type of version of this game right here. And so this game can tell back to about 2,000 years, like I said, all the way between 100 AD and 200 AD. So that tells you if something such as a board game now in America started as a game of life and it transcended all the way around the world, there has to be some major values there and some great importance other than winning a trip to take your dog to a dog show, right? So I want to see how you guys can identify how these obstacles and these snakes and the ladders can compare to your life and your choices that you make today, and what our goal is, not just as an individual, but also as a city, a state, a society, and how we can do better. So now, reminding yourself that Chutes and Ladders, the object of a game is you want to make sure that you can have a couple of players. You can also play with two players. And when you're moving forward, scientists have found that even if it's just a couple of players, right? Let's just say three players are playing this game. In order to win, one player roughly needs to spin 32.9 spins from start to end to actually win the game. All right. And if it's two players, it's estimated by science, by the way, that one player wins a tiny bit by 50%. Actually, it's 50.9% to be more accurate. And the second player can win or lose by 49.1%. And that's assuming that everyone had the same amount of moves and there were no additional rules added to the game. All right. So what does that mean? That means this game, what I'm calling the game of life here, is a neck and neck. It's an equal opportunity. There are no ways for you to sabotage the game to win. You can't cheat. You can't have any extra incentives here. It's just going up, going down the same amount of times and coming down. And the first person who gets there doesn't even win by a long shot. It's a smidget. All right. So how does that compare to us in life today? As I mentioned before, that Chutes and Ladders, this is how we know it in America. This originated as snakes and ladders. And I consider this to be equivalent to the game of life. I do believe that if we look at life as a game, then we can try to approach it that way and move forward and up and down to the different levels. In a video game, for example, when you are starting out, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to win the game. You don't know how to defeat the enemies. You don't know how to win the prizes. You're just really figuring it out by watching others. And you start to get better and better and better. And as a positive consequence to your work ethic and your determination and learning where you made your mistakes and moving forward, not making those mistakes again or not so much, then you are able to achieve the goal of moving to the next level, or what I would ask you to think of as the next dimension. And so when you're playing Chutes and Ladders or Snakes and Ladders, you're going up these ladders, taking your turn, and you are actually able to climb up this ladder. When you meet a point in life where you've got a decision to make, because we have free will, and that is our own special superpower, which is why we know it as willpower. When you use your willpower to make a specific choice, whether it is positive or negative, you have a consequence. And sometimes that consequence can be, I'm going to continue to keep up this ladder. I'm going to keep climbing. And then a lot of times when we hit that bump in the road or we make that poor choice, it leads us down this ladder or this snake, and we end up having a negative consequence. And what I would ask you today is to consider that way down, that descent, as being almost not a negative, but maybe a mediumship right there, not a positive or a negative, but something that we need to look into. And so what do I mean by that? When my children make poor choices and they are learning how to navigate this life under my headship in this home, by these standards, they come and they make several bad choices or poor choices, rather. Learning the lessons. and they are not burdened by their choices, or even though there's a consequence, but they are reminded that there's a positive consequence and a negative consequence. And you can continue this cycle of making these types of choices and having to repeat these different types of outcomes, or you can break that cycle by learning from the lesson, and then you can climb up to the next level. And so what I want you guys to take away from that is that the mistakes are not a bad thing. In fact, the mistakes are what you have to attain in order to get to what we want to be, perfect or perfection. I personally believe that the mistakes matter, because if you do not understand something, it's because you didn't get into the thick of it. You didn't get into the dive in of it, right? And so our goal here is to be on our journey of self-mastery. We want to know ourselves. Know thyself is what we're charged to do. And from there, we move forward into enlightenment, okay? And then from there, we can ascend. And so that's pretty much the gist of what I want to just continue on about, and why this game is something that we can learn from. All right, so the morale here. What is the moral of this game? Okay, once you go through the different levels and the stages of growth in life, do not be afraid to transition. In order to learn the lesson, one must embrace the discouragement, the hardships, and the stagnation yielded to compromise the mistakes. All right, so what does that mean there? In this game, what I love about the original game, the Snakes and Ladders, is that it's not just a simple board. In many different cultures, especially in India, you're going to see deities and angels at the tops of the boards. You're going to see different things at the bottom. And it's really tapping into a different type of morality there. The understanding that they have taught their youth growing up for thousands of years here in this game is your free will. The choice that you've been given to make is yours. And as you move through these obstacles and these ladders, right? These lessons here, how do you use what you've understood? And how does gratitude, servitude, forgiveness, love, how does these things empower you, and how do they take away from you? And do they ultimately lead to your descent or your ascent? I'd like to, guys, bring you to an example. I was watching a movie with my son, and when I was asked to speak about this, speak on this day, I didn't really have a topic in mind. And I said, well, I'll probably just open myself up and say, God, what would you like for me to speak to your people about? And I just felt like it was going to come from these movies. And it didn't really come from the movies. We watched like 4 or 5 of them back to back to back with my son. And this is what we do when I want to get into his world. And there was a part in the movie where it was Shazam. And the character said that life is the path to death, and the death is the path to life. And for some reason, that just stuck with me. It stood out to me. What does that mean? And I think that when we talk about ascension and descension, we're here, we're born. You know, we come into this life to live, only to die. That is the only thing that we are promised, is to die once we are born. And through this life, learning from how to crawl, how to walk, how to run, all these things that we find easy now were very difficult at some point in time. They were hard, they were frustrating. We didn't think we would be able to obtain those goals, but we had to put in work ethic. We had to have a dedication, and we had to have that dedication turn into some type of devotion. And I was reminded by this picture behind you, where I'm pregnant in this picture with my youngest son. And while I was talking to my eldest son about, man, that really stands out to me, death. And we start not just being born, but we start in the womb, right? And this is like, a place of liquid, of water, of new birth. And we're here in the womb. And what I'm trying to convey to you is to also go back into this idea of being in your mother's womb. This is a portal that you can only have access to this realm, to this earth. Can you go through this portal from your mom's womb? You didn't get here by just poof. You got here through some woman's womb. When you felt you were ready to come out and go to that next level, we're going to call that earth, right? Coming from a fetus, before that, an egg, moving into a developed baby. You're in this womb and you're ready to go to the next level. You've gotten everything that you could get from this environment, this stage of life. All of a sudden, things start getting really hard, really difficult. You feel like the walls are kind of caving in on you. As a baby, you felt the compression from the contractions. You felt uncomfortable. You felt discouraged. You were afraid. You didn't know if this was the end or not, but you were being moved. And if you know how a baby comes out of the womb, they may be sitting up high in any type of direction. They could be breached. They could be sitting up just fine. But no matter where they're sitting, they do have to descend out of that womb in order to ascend into the next transition. All right. And that we want to call that earth. And so just thinking about that with my son and talking about, sweetie pie, you had to descend out of my womb from that portal to get here. And starting out, all you knew was love and that you were great and that you were beautiful and that you were accepted. And then from there, you took on the identities of the environments around you and what you were fed, whether it was through me or through the environment. And those led to you believing different things about yourself. And that's what I do a lot with my company. I try and take people back to the beginning when they were unlabeled, untitled, anything, and they were just them in their purest form. And that was called good. And from there, society has led them into these ideals of thinking that they're not good enough, that they don't deserve certain things, or maybe we don't have the body that others have. We don't have the looks or the intelligence or the degree or the accolades or the label that others may have that we don't. And does that make us better or worse or not good? We have to decide that. And those are the things that we are doing while we're climbing. And if you buy into that mentality that you're not good enough, that could cause you to fall. And when you're falling, you're going down that snake and you're having to have a hard land. And from there, what do we do? And I would like to go back and encourage you guys to sit for a second. Is that fall so bad? I believe the fall is necessary in order for us to get back up stronger, in order for us to realize that I don't belong here and I'm strong enough to get here. And in that climb, you've got refuge. In that climb, you have your ascension into what you might want to call salvation. And that allows us to get to a higher level, not just a higher level of thinking, but of doing, of believing. And that allows us to reach a state of purification. And from there, can we ascend? Because you can't go any higher when you're heavy. You have to be that lightness. You have to have that feather effect in order to rise, right? And so we needed to be able to take that concept into our lives, taking those concepts from these games here, chutes and ladders, snakes and ladders, and work on the climb in our lives. There are mountainists that believe that you have to respect the mountain. What does that mean? Well, if you have a mountain, you want to climb up the mountain, right? And a lot of times the mountains are like that swirl we talked about, just like the body of the snake. And a lot of mountainists say that it is much harder to climb up down the mountain than it is to climb up the mountain. Okay. So what does that mean? We have mountains in our life sometimes. Sometimes we have on the way up that mountain, everything is blissful, everything is great, everything is good. I've met the love of my life, and they are just, the apple of my eye, and these children are just so wonderful to have, and they're so full of gratitude and love, and my job is amazing, and these friends that I've just met are awesome. The school that I just started is incredible. But as we start to reach that top of the mountain, we've got to go back down. And on the way down, that relationship is not as fun. It's in fact terrifying. That person who now has to be your mirror is showing you things about yourself that you didn't want to see. Those friend groups that you thought were the best for you turned out to be your enemies. On the way down, a lot of those things that we thought were great and good for us turned out to be some of the choices, that we made that are now reflecting and showing us who we are, who we become, what we did not achieve and what we could have. And a lot of times that way down is the only way we're going to get back down and decide to go to the next climb, get the next mountain. We know now that we can come down and we can see where we were, and we know it's possible to attain that again. A lot of times you've got millionaires and billionaires who've lost their income, lost their money. They have gone through hardships, but they say that once you've had it, it's even easier to obtain it again. And so even in there, we find the ascension and the descension. And I would love to just remind you guys that life is full of ups and downs. They're full of obstacles. They're full of courses. And if you treat that life like a game, knowing that there are going to be times where you lose, you don't get to make it. Dun, dun, dun. You have to start all over again. And how many of you guys have ever reached that point where you're almost at the end of the game? The princess is right there. You're about to save her. And all of a sudden, here comes King Cooper and it's over. And you throw the game down and you're like, I don't want to start this over. I was just there. I was just there. And then something tells you, if you were just there, how much easier is it going to be just to pass on by and zoom by these other levels? It's going to be hard, but guess what? We can do it. And that's what I want to say to you guys today, is that it's going to be difficult on this journey of life, climbing up that mountain, climbing up that ladder. And you're going to have and face some of these chutes, some of these snakes, some of these downward spirals, but you can do it. You can make it. And from there, you can collect all of the lessons that you can only find in a mistake. A lot of times we come here, and some people, there are a small percentage of people who can learn from others without having to learn the hardships. They can sit, they can be a student of life, they can take notes and say, don't do what they did. This will lead to this. A conclusion about who I am and what did I want to do with this wheel? Did I want to use the power in it for good? Did I want to be bad? Did I want to hurt people? Did I want to be jealous, envious? Did I want to be selfish? Or did I want to be a servant? And I started to learn that every choice that I made that was a positive one, it empowered me so much to where I did not have a taste as much or a desire as much for the things that kept bringing me down from my ladder. And I have a video that I've made where someone asked me, when did I realize my power and the course that I wanted to take? And I said it was when I was at the bottom of the well. And it was a metaphor for a visual of me being at the very bottom of the well. And it's a very emotional story for me to tell, because I was at this bottom of the well, psychologically, spiritually. There was no light. There was no way out. It was just me at the bottom. All I could do is look up. Through the looking up, I was able to start to see. You know how you're in the dark and the dark starts to settle in on your eyes? And all of a sudden, it's not pitch dark in here anymore. I can kind of make out some things. I can kind of see some grooves here. I can try and see some type of light in the distance. And if I can just start working my way up one step at a time, one foot placement at a time, one groove at a time. And yeah, my fingers might have hurt. I may have gotten some blisters. I may have gotten some skin breaking, climbing my way up out of that well, but I made it to the top. My body's heavy. I am my own weight, but I got one hand just outside of that surface of the well. I'm on the ground. I'm able to pull myself out. And when I sit there, you guys, at the top, at the entrance, I can look down to the bottom of the well and see where I came from. And the point from there, I turned around, I stood up, and I was so excited to be out of that position, out of that situation, out of that circumstance. It taught me so much, and it removed so many different veils that I was able now to finally see something I never saw before I fell into the well. And that was all of the other pits of wells right behind me, right beside me, right before me. In each and every single one at the bottom was another person just like you, just like me, who've lost their way and they feel hopeless. They're discouraged. They don't see the light. The darkness has not settled in on them yet. They're in the midst of it. They're in their storms. They're in their cycles that they have not broken. They don't see a way out. They're in those relationships they cannot get out of. They're in those circumstances where they have lost people. They're hurting. They're blinded by pain. They're arguing amongst themselves. They are parents who have children that are not listening to them, that are not taking the right paths. They're hurting in so many different ways. And it is our job to transition from my will to servantry. How can I help each one of those people come out of their wells, get from the bottom to the top? And if I can just get one, maybe they can come and help me with the next person. And then if we can just be 2 and 3, like on that game, maybe we can help with the next batch. And just like this group that we're on right now with sharEvery Global Foundation, we are those people who have come from the bottom of the well. We are now joining together in unity, and we're also helping each one save one. And we're doing the work. We have climbed, we have fallen, we have climbed again. And now we understand that in order for us to be able to move and ascend from our descension as a society, as a group of people who are here to love and to gain and to grow, it's not just about ourselves anymore. It's not just about me being in Tulsa and you being somewhere else across the world. This is about us moving together as a unit. And that's what we are establishing today, just by you allowing me to speak and encourage. This is my effort to get others who may hear out of that well, out of the bottom of that pit, and climb and keep climbing, continue the climb. And that is what I wanted to bring together for us to discuss. Making sure that we know how to climb the ladder and keep on the climb, and making sure that we understand we're not alone. We have choices to make, and those choices do result in consequences that we can get stuck in, we can get lost in, and we have to stay on the journey, on the path to moving forward, getting to the next level, and what we would call an ascension. And from there, we can experience a purification that ultimately will allow us to transition into our next level.
Hey, thank you very much, Tiara. Thank you so much. I must tell you, I really appreciate your voice and your body language. I really like it a lot. And by the way, I didn't know Chutes and letters, only snakes and letters. It has been very interesting for me. Both getting to know Chutes and letters during this time, and even the way you connected the information from the game into real life.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful inside and out. Thank you. I would like to leave this moment in your hands, Coach Andrea Anderson. Welcome to SGF once again. She's our reviewer of this night. And over to you, Andrea, beautiful Andrea from Tulsa.
Thank you, Coach. Oh my goodness. Wow. And when you think of the word wow, you think, wow, what does wow mean? Wow means wonderful. It means optimistic. It means wise. Our wonderful new guest, our new best BFS, our new best friend, Tiara, has just really opened up our eyes. I'm going to review some of the things that she said. First of all, you always learn things from sharEvery Global Foundation. I had never heard of snakes and ladders. Petrified as I am of snakes, not a problem. But she described what the game meant, and she brought us all into the concept by saying that it originated from India, 100 AD. And she said in America, we changed the word Chutes and ladders. And she said the object of the game told us what the object of the game was to get from one place to another place. I love the phrase that she used. I've never thought about this before. She said, positive consequences. When you think of consequences, you always think of something negative. But you know what? They're positive consequences. So that really, really stuck with me. I'm just glad she mentioned that. She said the word free will / willpower is your superpower. Never thought of it that way. So our free will it's also can be our willpower, but it's also a superpower. She said, we don't always have to point out people's lessons. She used her child as an example, but you use them as learning lessons. Mistakes matter. Wow. When she said the phrase mistakes matter, that takes a weight off of our shoulders. She said that we must be on the goal of be on a journey, which is our goal of self-mastery. Then she talked about the moral of the game. Coach Tiara talked about the moral of the game. Number one, do not be afraid of transition. Do not be afraid of transition, i.e., do not be afraid of change. You said you have to embrace hardship. Is that easy? Absolutely not. She said you have to embrace hardship. And she talked about again your free will. Now, he said, let's use our free will to show gratitude, forgiveness, love, and a new good word, excellent word that we must remember, servitude. Am I my brother's keeper? Absolutely, absolutely. She said, what will that do? That will lead from either ascent to what? Descent. And she said, you know what? We've come to light, and she quoted, that's straight from King Solomon, Ecclesiastes. You come to life to live and to eventually die. But in the meantime and in between time, you have to have a work ethic. You must have a determination and let that determination, turn into devotion. Then she said, you know what? Where do we all start? The Genesis is where? Is in the womb. And in the womb, a child is full of the water. And then she showed us the path. There's a path that we all take, every single human being we've taken as we emerge from the womb. And she says that will take us back to the beginning. But unfortunately, what does society say? So society will say, you're no good. They won't give you the accolades you deserve. But you know what? You can either listen to them or listen to yourself. You are the deciding factor. You make the decision. She says, don't fall into that lie. Or if you do fall, just say, dust yourself off and say, the fall was necessary to realize that I can go higher. She said, you know what? You can't go any higher if you're heavy. You just can't go higher if you're heavy. So you have to release those negative vibes, release the negative words that people have spoken to you, because you have to ascend. You have a job to do. You have a mission, and that's ascension. And we must work on what? The climbs of life. And she said, mountains are like a snake. And this was interesting, really interesting. She said it's hard. You don't think about this. I would have thought it's just the opposite. It's harder to climb down than it is to ascend. Because you said on the way down, there are going to be obstacles. And the way up, as you're ascending, you have your mind focused. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. But then when you come down, there's always going to be someone trying to trip you. Someone is always going to try to make you feel that you can't do it. There are going to be obstacles. But remember, life is full of ups and downs. And she gave our viewers, she gave the listeners, she gave us, she told us, you know what? That there's a difficult journey of life is going to be difficult. She didn't try to sugarcoat it. She said the journey of life is going to be difficult. You're going to have to face the chutes, the spirals, but you know what? You can collect lessons that you can only find in a mistake. Just don't be distracted, because positive change, what's positive change, choices rather going to do? They're going to empower you. And she said, realize that you're your own weight. Look at the bottom of the well to see how far you've come from. And that's where servitude comes in. Help other people get out of the well. Reach out and help other people. And she's helped us get out of the well today. Each one help one. And she said, you know what? We must work together, move together as a unit. Am I my brother's keeper? Absolutely. So she said to climb the ladder. Understand, you're not alone. You're not alone. Stay on the journey. There's a journey of ascension and purification. So again, I close by saying, wow, she was wonderful. She was optimistic, and she was wise. Thank you. Turn it back over to you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Andrea Anderson. Super objective in your feedback.